So today's bonus call, I'm thinking, all right, what could make this a fun, interesting, call where they can take something away from it, really apply it. And I thought, dadgum, I've been coaching for 25 years, coaching real estate agents for 25 years. And I'm going to walk over to my desk for a second. I want to get something to show you. So I want everybody see this. It's my little black book of coaching. And what I've done over the years is when I come up with a thought or happen to say something smart that I want to remember, I write it down. And so what I've done is I've accumulated many, many years of notes so I can just go back and refresh myself. Hey, we this happened, we said that, I learned this, and I jot it down. So today's topic, okay, and these thoughts are in no particular order, okay, but today's topic are what I have learned from coaching for the last 25 years. And let me just put this in context for a second. Most of you know that I was a coach for Mike Ferry for 20 years. And I averaged coaching 75 clients a week. Each call was a 30-minute call, 75 of them a week. And I did that for 20 straight years. So let that sink in for a second. That's a lot of coaching calls and a lot of stuff that I can learn. And so I could go on for days and days about what I've learned through this experience, but I put together a few points that stood out to me that I want to share with you guys today. So let's look at point number one. When the why is strong enough, the how becomes much easier. Okay. When I try to determine what's going to cause, this person that I'm coaching, how likely are they to succeed? Okay. How likely are they to move ahead? Well, it really, really comes down to how bad do they want it and why do they want it? Okay. It always seems like it's harder than we think it's going to be. It never happens as fast as we think it's going to come, the success in real estate. However, the more that you are driven with a good why, the easier it is to succeed. Okay. So if you are not really clear on what it is that's your primary motivation, then you need to stop and think about it. I'll tell you something else on this point that I've learned. Most all of us are clear on our why, but we don't want to accept it many times. Okay. Because here's the cool why, the cool motivation is I want to go out and buy this fancy car or this big, beautiful home, and wow, that sounds really good when you talk about it with your friends. But that may not really, really be it. It could be that you have led a life where you really have not felt appreciated, valued, you haven't felt significant, and you see an opportunity in this business to actually be somebody and to be respected. Now, that may be something that you don't want to openly talk about because that may not sound real cool, but you know what? It's a personal thing. It's whatever it is for you. It could be that you grew up in a family that, I know this one situation in particular, family was very successful, very wealthy, and for whatever reason, the business failed and they went bankrupt. And they went through a catastrophic time in their life. And this client of mine was growing up through that and seeing the stress that it caused on mom and dad and the family to go from having abundance to literally having nothing. And it was that thought of, I don't ever want that to be me, that kept driving them. And you think, well, Man, isn't that a negative thought? Well, yes. But the reality is more people are motivated away from pain than they are towards pleasure. So don't be ashamed of whatever it is that is your thing. And remember, you don't have to share it with anybody. You don't have to talk about it. You know, hopefully, if you're in the process of being coached, you feel comfortable at least talking about it with your coach. I know everybody that works with me, our calls are confidential. And what we talk about is completely confidential. But that insight, when I know that about a client, it really, really helps me to be able to coach them effectively. So again, when the why is strong enough, the how becomes much easier. That's point number one. Point number two, to do more business, you must talk to more people. Becoming a master of the skills increases your return. Okay, so think about this, guys. Okay, we're all here to learn how to do more business, to make more sales, take more listings. We all want to learn how to do that better. There is no substitute for talking to more people, because basically when it comes down to doing business, there's three ways to do it. Number one, you can go buy the business. And let me tell you, that's really, really expensive and typically a very low return on your investment. Number two, you can wait on the business. Okay, wait on friends, family members, people that know you're in real estate to call you and say, hey, I want to buy, I want to sell. That's going to happen. The longer that you're in business, that's going to happen more and more. However, it's not going to happen in high abundance. It's not predictable. It's not duplicatable. And that's the route that most of the people in real estate follow. You know, we've all heard the statistic that the average realtor in the country is selling between 4 and 6 homes per year. Why? Because that's about how many fall in their lap when they wait. Now, the third way to go about it is to go find it. Okay, and how do we find it? We establish our sources. Where are we going to go after the listings? Where are we going to go after the sales? What is the script that we're going to use? What are the objection handlers that we need to know? And then it comes down to a pure numbers game. The more people you talk to, the more business you're going to do. Okay, don't fight that truth. It is the truth, and you're going to continue to be reminded of it more and more. Don't fight it. Find a way to get more efficient and more effective with your prospecting. And as your skill level goes up, you're going to find that that same number of contacts is going to yield a higher and higher result. Next point. Work to create the mindset. Okay. Well, Trevor's going to put that up for us. Work to create the mindset of getting one referral from every existing client. Okay, who's an existing client? Let's define that first. Your active listing or your pending. So if you have a listing or a sale going, that's your client that you're working with at this time. I'm going to call it an existing client. Okay, your objective should be to get at least one referral from every one of those existing clients. Now, how's that possible? Well, I want you to think about this. When people are making small talk, when they're at work, when they're mingling with friends, family, what do people tend to talk about in small talk? They tend to talk about the things that are going on in their life at the time. So if somebody's in the middle of selling their home or buying a home, in all likelihood, that conversation is taking place. And when they start talking about that, they're much, much more likely to find somebody else that says, oh, hey, yeah, we're getting ready to move too. We want to buy, we want to sell, whatever. So we need to start setting all of our clients up to send us referrals. We need to ask them right up front if through this transaction, they would be willing to commit to sending you at least one referral. And I always kind of made a game of it and, you know, and had fun with them, you know, but made them commit. Hey, I'd like to get one referral from you, you know. Now, granted, You need to be doing a great job with your customer service so that they want to send you that referral. But if you create the mindset, okay, if you create the goal to get one referral per existing client before that transaction is closed, I bet you might surprise yourself as to how much you can do it. And you also need to ask yourself, am I intentionally working my existing clients right now? And in most cases, the answer is no. So this is a big thing I've learned over the years. Create the mindset, one referral per every existing client. All right, next point. Oh, I love this point. Stop trying to figure out the magic answer or the shortcut. Embrace the process. So many people are trying to overthink things and trying to figure out what is the combination to success that nobody has figured out up to this point. And I am going to be the one that's going to outsmart the entire world and figure out how to build a better mousetrap, how to do things smarter and better. Well, I'm not trying to discourage you from thinking and being creative, but notice the last part of that point said, stay away from creative avoidance. Many times in our efforts to try to outthink everybody else, all we're doing is stalling and wasting time, as opposed to just accepting the fact that, guess what? The real secret to success comes down to a four-letter word, W-O-R-K, work. That's the secret. If anybody tells you differently, they're lying to you. Now, speaking of lying, that reminds me of another point that I think is important to discuss. A lot of us, we go to different conferences, different meetings to get together with our fellow realtors out there and talk and share ideas and stay motivated. Okay. Be careful not to compare yourself to others, because I can tell you from somebody who has gone to these conferences for a heck of a long time, most of the people that you meet at these conferences, when they tell you what they've done, they're lying. They're lying. Whatever number they tell you, cut it down. Everybody wants to look good. Everybody wants to look good. So when you go and meet somebody, oh, I did this many deals, I made this much money. And then you're thinking, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do that? Well, first of all, they didn't do that. They're just lying to you. Okay, I know that sounds bad, but that's unfortunately the truth. So take it with a grain of salt. All right, that's a bonus point. Next point. As we go down the path of success, as we're working towards trying to get ourselves to the next level, don't undervalue the importance of a strong support system. Don't try to do it on your own. Whether it's, hiring a coach like myself, or whether it is becoming a part of a mastermind group, or finding another agent in your office that you can be accountable with, find a good support group. Because this business is hard to stay motivated all the time, and it can get discouraging quickly because things don't always happen as fast as we want, and sometimes we feel like we're taking 2 steps forward and then 1 step backwards. I go out and sell 5 homes for the month, and then 2 of those suckers fell apart before the month was even over. We need to have a strong support group. Need to have somebody that's going to keep us focused, keep us encouraged, be a positive influence in our life. The more of those you can have, the better. And the opposite is true. There's a lot of people that want to be around you to tell you why you won't succeed, why you can't do what it is that you want to do. And they justify it by trying to save you the pain of disappointment. Oh, aren't they so thoughtful? They're going to save you the pain of disappointment. Don't get your hopes up. You're probably not going to be able to do that. Stay away from those people. You can do whatever it is you think you can do. Next point, Trevor. Your thoughts are a result of your exposure. Your thoughts precede everything you do. Everything starts with a thought. Napoleon Hill says, what the mind of man can conceive or think of and believe, he can achieve. Okay. It all starts with a thought. Where do these thoughts come from? These thoughts are a result of your exposure. Now, growing up, you may have had very little control over who and what you were exposed to. But now, I'm assuming everybody on this call and a part of this call is an adult who can control their own life and make their own decisions and can control their exposure. Now, when I say exposure, guys, I'm talking about everything from who you hang around to where you go to, everything. Everything you're exposing yourself to is being stored. And these thoughts determine what you believe you can do and what they even allow you to conceive. What they allow you to conceive. See, one of the big reasons why some of you are not producing at as high of a level as you want is you have a hard time conceiving and then believing that you can really do it. You might fall into the trap of thinking, well, I believe it can be done, and I believe he can do it or she can do it, but I'm not so sure that I can do it. Maybe you're carrying around some of the past failures where you've tried and you fell short. And maybe you're focusing too much on those and not willing to accept that exposure as a building block and stepping on those failures, those shortcomings as a lesson to help you to succeed the next time. Next point, Trevor. Your thoughts can also become habits. You must have mental versatility. Okay, let me tell you what I mean by this. If I was to say, pick somebody random here on this call and say, okay, tell me, what are a couple of your habits? I just had this habit of scratching my head like this all the time. Or I just have this habit of doing this or doing that. Most of us think of physical things that we do. I chew my fingernails. Okay, but I want you to recognize that our thoughts can also be habitual. We can get locked in to, for example, we've all just come and are coming through a changing and transitioning market. And in the previous market, it was a feeding frenzy. Everything had multiple offers and was going over asking price. And all of us experienced the same thing. It was just pure craziness. And you can get your thoughts going in that direction. And then when the market shifts, we're still thinking that way. Let me give you a specific point. I was talking to one of my salespeople yesterday about lead follow-up and the importance of lead follow-up. And she said to me, Gordon, this is my biggest area of weakness right now is lead follow-up. And I said to her, right now, it is more critical than ever, because 6-12 months ago, when we were in that feeding frenzy of a market, lead follow-up really wasn't as important because there was such a sense of urgency to act now. Because if something comes available for sale, you better jump on it the next 5 or 10 minutes or it's going to be gone and you're not going to have an opportunity. So there was urgency, act now. Now the market has shifted and those buyers are feeling like, I've got time. Yeah, I like that house, but I want to look at a couple others. I've got choices. You know, I want to take my time. And so now we have to learn to follow up. Just like what Sarah was saying at the beginning of this call. She had somebody she followed up with for a year before she made $1 million sale to that person. So lead follow-up is critical, but if you're used to thinking about your business in one certain way, and then the market changes, you've got to learn to be versatile with your thoughts. So thoughts can also be habitual. Next point. I have a standard response when somebody says, hey, what's the key? What's the key to being able to sell a lot of real estate, be a great husband, father, friend? How do we manage all of this? How do we manage it? And my standard response is we have to learn to manage two things have to learn to manage our time, and we have to learn to manage our emotions. Your time and your emotions. Obviously, we all have the same number of hours in a day. All of us are playing on a level playing field there. Some of us accomplish more in those hours than others do. But when we talk about emotions, emotions are a good thing and emotions are a bad thing. We need emotions, but we need to, emotions, let's say this, emotions are like a laser beam. A laser beam can be used to perform delicate surgery, you know, and do things that are very valuable and important that only that laser beam can do. A laser beam can also cause all sorts of havoc if it's left uncontrolled. Your emotions are the same way. If we learn how to use our emotions properly, it's going to make us a much, much better salesperson. It's going to make us a much better person in general, to learn to use them properly. Emotions are good. Uncontrolled emotions are bad. They cause you to make poor decisions, and they mentally fatigue you. Learn to manage your emotions. One of the stumbling blocks for many people that are trying to get from this level to this level is they can't seem to get their emotions under control. We've got to learn to manage our emotions. Next point. Your ego is your biggest enemy. Quit always having to be right. So our ego, what is our ego? Our ego is that mechanism inside of us that causes us to always want to look good. Our ego wants everybody to see us in a positive light. Our ego wants us to always be right. If you can learn to set your ego aside, let me tell you guys, you are going to move forward so much faster in your business and so much faster in life. Learn to set your ego aside. Quit focusing and thinking so much about yourself and start to focus on others. I love that quote from Zig Ziglar that says the way to get what you want out of life is to help other people get what they want out of life. It doesn't say the way to get what you want out of life is to use people to help you get it. That's not what it says. Help other people get what they want out of life, and then you'll get what you want. Put the focus on them and not you. Quit having to be right all the time. One of the biggest things that is going to hinder your ability to learn is having to be right. And listen, this is really a bigger problem for people who have already worked their way up to a certain level of production where they think that they're pretty good. Whenever you start thinking that you've got it figured out, look out. You're getting ready to get a surprise. You've got to stay humble. You've got to stay in the question. You've got to keep learning from others. The more that you think that you've got it all figured out and everybody needs to learn from you, that's the beginning of the end. Get your ego under control. Quit always having to be right. Not to mention, somebody with an out of control ego is really not pleasant to be around. Next point, Trevor. Oh, learn to respect the power of momentum. Learn to respect the power. The power of momentum is so powerful, both positively and negatively. We have to understand what momentum is, and we've got to get momentum on our side, working for us, taking us in the direction that we want to go. And momentum is not created instantaneously. Now, in the real estate business and in most things in life, it takes at least 90 days of consistency to create momentum. If you're wanting to take your business to the next level, you're going to have to decide with your coach or whoever is guiding you a plan that you need to follow. And when you follow that plan, you've got to give it at least 90 days before you can really say, okay, I'm starting to feel like momentum. Let me give you an example. Let's just say that you are carrying a few too many pounds. You know, Thanksgiving kind of got to us. It kind of stuck. And we need to get ourselves back in shape. So we get with a personal trainer, a fitness consultant, and they give us the plan. And they tell us what to eat and what not to eat, and the exercises to do and how to do them. And they lay it all out for us. And we go out and we do it. The next day we do it to the letter. And then you stand in front of that mirror and you're the same person you were yesterday. Doesn't that suck? And even if you do it for a week, you're still going to look pretty much the same as you did when you started. However, give it 90 days of consistency, then look at that before and after picture. And I got a feeling you're going to like what you see. The opposite is true. We can consistently be behaving poorly, making poor decisions, poor habits. And the accumulation of those over time is going to create a negative momentum. Some of us have had periods of time when we said, man, I'm in a slump. But what's a slump? A slump is negative momentum. It's the accumulation of doing things the wrong way, either through actions or thoughts. So learn to respect the power of momentum. Next point. Oh, yeah. Everyone deals with what I call the I don't want-us. Okay. And I don't want to get up at 5 o'clock this morning. I'm tired. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to pick up the phone and prospect. I don't want to. We've all been there. I have, you have, all of us have been there. Okay. So one of my good friends, I haven't seen him in years. I miss seeing him. He's a great guy. His name is Rick Berube. And I've got to give him credit for this quote, because he said, put the body in motion and the mind will follow. Make that first call. When you don't want to prospect, do it anyway. Make that first call. Pick up the phone and just tell yourself, I'm going to make just one call. And then if I still really don't want to prospect, then I'll just stop. But make that one call, because the second call is way easier than the first. And the third is way easier. Before long, you're just going and going. Again, back to my exercise workout, or my example of exercise. You don't want to exercise. Okay, fine. Just put your clothes on and just go to the gym. Just go hang out at the gym and watch everybody else work out. But while you're there, it all of a sudden becomes a whole lot easier for you now to take the next step. It's all about just taking that first step. We all battle the I don't want us, but you've got to be careful about letting yourself give into it, because before long, that also can become a habit. And then you don't believe yourself. And when you don't have credibility within yourself, that's a bad position to be in. Everybody deals with the I don't want us. We've got to learn how to be overcomers. Next point. I wish I could give credit to this quote. I don't recall where I heard it or learned it, but I think about it and I use it all the time. Our greatest opportunity for growth lies behind the area that we resist the most. So what does that mean? Our greatest opportunity for growth lies behind the area that we resist the most. All right, let me give you some examples. Who's ever said, you know, I really have got to start calling my past clients. I know there's a ton of business there that I'm missing. I just have to do it, but it's just awkward. I don't feel comfortable doing it. I can't bring myself to do it. And then when you do, when you learn what to say and what to do and find out it's really easy. As a matter of fact, it's probably the easiest method of prospecting there is, not to mention the most productive. And then you find that your businesses went from here to here because you got past the resistance that was getting in your way. Our greatest opportunity for growth lies behind the area that I resist the most. Now, this is where you've got to be able to be honest with yourself. You've got to look yourself in the eye and say, okay, what am I resisting? What is it that I know that I should be doing differently and I'm not? Be honest with yourself. And then let's work either on your own with your coach, with somebody else that is part of your support system, and let them help you get past that resistance. Our greatest opportunity for growth lies behind the area that we resist the most. Identify what that is for you, and you can have a huge breakthrough. Next point. Enthusiasm is to selling as yeast is to bread. It raises the dough. The number one most important quality of a great salesperson is the ability to generate enthusiasm. Because guys, enthusiasm is contagious. And we're in the business right now. We are salespeople. We're in the business of selling ourselves, our services. When we go on that listing presentation and we're sitting down in front of that seller and we want them to sign that listing contract, we have got to learn to create enthusiasm. Because remember this, guys, people buy, people allow themselves to be sold in a state of emotion. People make buying decisions in a state of emotion. How do we get people into that state of emotion? We lead by example. We take our enthusiasm and we ramp it up. Now, let's be sure that we don't confuse enthusiasm with uncontrolled emotions. Two different things altogether. Enthusiasm is that inner energy, that inner level of excitement. Okay, it actually means enthusiasm. Break it up into two. Theos. Theos, God. Enthusiasm actually means the God life within. That's a definition of enthusiasm, the God life within. Learn how to generate enthusiasm. You may be thinking right now on this call, and Gordon, that's just not me. I'm just not an enthusiastic kind of a person. Yeah, that's a lot of people. I'd say there's more that aren't than are, but you have to learn to fake it until it becomes real. It's the number one quality of a great salesperson, the ability to generate enthusiasm. Practice that. Next point, Trevor. To have a breakthrough. One of the things I've learned over the years, to have a breakthrough, you must learn to embrace change. If we come back to that old definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result, meaning not changing. I'm not going to change, but I want a different outcome. What sense does that make? That doesn't even sound logical. And yet we behave that way. All right, I'm selling this much and now I want to sell this much. Okay, what changes are you willing to make to get there? Well, I just want it. I'm just committed. I'm determined. But what changes are you going to make? Well, I don't know that I want to change. I kind of like who I am and the way I am. Well, then get used to where you are. Breakthroughs require change. Growth requires change. Now, again, coming back to the point of ego. Ego is one of the biggest things that will get in the way of that change. Because if you determine that you have to change, it's another way of saying the way that I'm being right now is not right. And I need to do it differently. I need to change. I'm not being right to accomplish what I want. And then the ego comes in and says, oh, yes, you are. You're just fine. Everything will work out. You just put that goal down and no, it's not going to work. You've got to learn to embrace change. 2 more points for you guys today, then we'll take a minute, open up for questions. Next point. Oh, I love this quote. Mario Andretti. There's some of you on this call that have no clue who Mario Andretti is. He is a famous race car driver. And this kind of ties in with that previous point. He says, if everything seems under control, you're not going fast enough. We as by nature are people that want to stay in control. We want everything to be in control so that we can protect it and be safe. But growth requires you being out of control to a degree. Put it in perspective, to a degree. Okay. If you don't think about, I was talking to my team the other day about the game of baseball, and I hope most of you on this call can relate to the game of baseball. You know, there's home plate, first, second, third. The goal is to get all the way around across home plate to score a point. So when you get to first base and second base is up ahead of you 90 feet, and as long as your foot's on the base, you can't be called out. But as soon as you take your foot off the base, you're vulnerable and you can be tagged out at any moment. But you can't stay on first base because you're never going to score. So you've got to get from first to second, which means you have to take a risk. You have to get out of your comfort zone, or you're never going to move ahead. When everything seems under control, you're not going fast enough. Learn to embrace that feeling of exhilaration. But it's calculated. It's not throwing all common sense to the wind. It's calculated, but you have to take risks. You have to go through that period of feeling a little out of control to get to the next level. There's no way around it. And finally, the last point of 1,000 that I could have put down for you guys today, we must shift our thinking from being an independent contractor to an employee. All right, so what do I mean by that? All right, so let me give you an example. So let's just say that I hired one of you. So my good friend Jacob, I see Jacob Acosta there. Jacob, would you unmute yourself for a second, please?
Here I am.
Okay. All right. So Jacob, thank you. So let's just pretend that I am hiring you to perform a job for me. All right. And I'm
Great.
going to pay you, I'm going to pay you a salary of $500,000 a year. Okay.
Awesome.
And here's what I'm going to give you a schedule that I want you to follow, what I want you to be to work, and what I want you to do throughout the day. And that schedule consists of the right activities that are going to result in production. I also tell you that I want you to prospect X number of hours, make X number of contacts, go on X number of appointments, and get X number of contracts signed. Okay, and let's assume that it was a reasonable number. It's a reasonable number, okay? But now there's the accountability in place, Jacob. You're an employee. And I think we can agree that a $500,000 salary, there's going to be a whole lot of people lined up around the building waiting to take your place.
Yep.
Okay. So if I gave you a reasonable schedule, reasonable activities, reasonable expectations, and said, all right, go out and do it, would you do it?
Absolutely.
You wouldn't give it a second thought, would you?
Nope.
Matter of fact, you'd probably go home and tell your wife, oh my God, you won't believe the job that I landed.
Let's open the champagne. Yeah.
This is my dream job. Well, guess what, guys?
That's this
you
job.
all have that job. The problem is you're looking at it like an independent contractor, which means, hey, I can do what I want, when I want, how I want. But guess what? Then you're not going to get the same results. So you have to approach the business like this is a real job, like you're really an employee and not an independent contractor. Once you can learn to overcome that independent contractor mentality, the sky's the limit. So again, those are just a few points of many that I could have put down today. Before we wrap up our call, does anybody have any questions, comments, anything that I can help you with? Just unmute yourself and jump in.
I got a good question. I got a good question.
All right.
I was a teacher.
I'm going to time it and say, how long from the time I ask that question does the first person speak up? Everybody's waiting to see, oh no, who's going to do it first? Who's going to speak first?
I'll go ahead.
So Jacob, yes, sir.
So I actually added to what you said by saying being an employee who makes what I want to make, because there's an accountability there, but there's also what you just kind of illuminated. That would be amazing to make that amount. So my question is, when you're going through this process of change and you're trying to up the level that you want to get to, what are, I guess, some things you can do besides just working at that level to kind of help you? Like, should you take some time to read a book during a certain part of the day? Should you maybe do some more exercising? Should you maybe not drink that beer every day or that glass of wine every day? Maybe have that once a week or twice a week, you know, like you would if you were working $500,000 a year as a job, right? Your clients may need you, right?
Everything you said is a good example. You know, the bottom line is you need to, number one, if you're trying to make changes, you need to be pumping positive thoughts and positive information into your head all the time to counterbalance that negative self-talk that always takes place. You've got to offset it with the positive. Secondly, you've got to look for ways to put accountability in place. What can I do? Let me give you an example of a guy that used to coach years back, he really, really struggled with getting out of bed on time in the morning. And whenever he didn't get out of bed on time, then his whole schedule was set back. And, so he's not getting to the office on time. He's not prospecting on time. Everything is set back just by not getting out of bed on time. And so we solved this problem with just a very, very simple accountability. And that is, we put his alarm clock in his bathroom. So when the alarm clock went off, what did he have to do? Because he was married and his wife was not going to let him lay there in bed while that alarm clock's going off. Get out of this bed and get in there and turn that alarm off. Well, while you're in the bathroom, you might as well go ahead and get your day started. So look for different ways to hold yourself accountable to the changes that you need to make. And then finally, Jacob, I tell you, look for people that can support you. But don't assume that everybody will support you. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that would love nothing more than to see you fall on your face. And what's even worse is they call themselves your friend. Learn the difference. Great question. Anybody else today? Any other questions? I'm going to be like the auctioneer going once.
Hi, Gordon. It's Jerry Acosta with England Volkers. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you doing?
Good, good. Last time you spoke a lot about mindset and just being consistent.
Yes.
To me, that's one of the things that is a big challenge for a lot of us here. Is just how do we do the things repetitively and be enthusiastic every day?
Sure. So first of all, let me clarify. Do I think you should be enthusiastic every day? Yes. Will you naturally be enthusiastic every day? No. Okay. So, and one of the easiest ways to start, do you say your name is Jerry? I'm sorry, Jerry? Is that what you said?
Yes, Jerry.
Okay. One of the easiest ways, even when you don't feel like it, put a big smile on your face. Everybody just try it. Just smile right now. Just smile. Even if you don't feel like it, smile. And what you're going to find is after a short period of time of smiling, you're actually going to feel like smiling. So it's you have to start forcing the action until it becomes genuine. Okay, you have to start forcing it until it becomes genuine. Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. It's helpful. Thank you.
Good, you're welcome. So any other questions today? So this call is being recorded. It will be sent out to you. I know I gave you a lot of random points, and hopefully they're points that cause you to think. I would recommend that you go back through, watch it again, jot down your notes. If you can just simply come away from this call with one idea, one thing that you can go out and implement that's going to make your life better, it was worth it. So guys, thank you for being here, being a part of this. Let me share these ideas with you. Have a fantastic December. Remember, December is typically one of the best months of the entire year. Most of your top producers around the country will tell you December is the month where we kill it. So make up your mind. This is going to be a great December, and go out and make it happen. I'm Gordon Watson with Watson Powers Coaching. My partner, Steve Powers, is available as well. Call us, email us, whatever we can do to help you. We're here for you. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.